What if I told you there's a port so powerful it threatens US dominance in Latin America? Sounds like a plot twist in a geopolitical thriller, but before we unpack how this $3.6 billion megaproject might just rewrite the rules of global shipping forever, hit that subscribe button because today we're diving deep into the most ambitious, controversial, and game changing port you've never heard of. What China is building in Peru is now the biggest threat to the US trade, and even the US can't stop this. For decades, South America watched Asia's consumption boom from the sidelines, whether it was Peruvian quinoa bound for high end health stores or Chilean copper feeding China's factories. Exporters faced a brutal truth: geography was their greatest adversary. Imagine loading a container in Callao and watching it drift lazily through the Panama Canal gates, only to emerge more than a month later at Shanghai's docks. 35 days of waiting, demurrage fees piling up, volatile freight rates eating into razor thin margins. For a region whose economies hinge on mining, agriculture, and fisheries, those delays weren't just inconvenient, they were existential. Enter China's vision, not just a trading partner, but a logistical architect. When Washington dangled trade agreements, Beijing rolled out earth movers, dredgers, and checkbooks. The $3.6 billion commitment to Chankay wasn't charity, it was strategy. Nestled on the arid coast 60 kilometers north of Lima, this sleepy town, once known for salt pans and artisanal fishing, stood poised to be reborn. Suddenly, that dusty horizon held the promise of cranes taller than skyscrapers, supply chains humming 24 hours a day, and landlocked neighbors breathing easier at the thought of an overland corridor to the Pacific. Close your eyes and picture the future port in its full scale. A breakwater stretching 1.2 kilometers into the Pacific, its reinforced concrete boulders defying seasonal storms that once battered the coast. Behind it, 8 colossal berths in Phase 1, each berth capable of accommodating a vessel longer than 4 football fields, up to 18,000 TEU in capacity. Dredging operations have carved a channel 17 meters deep, transforming seabed into highway. But that's only half the marvel. A 1.8-kilometer tunnel, bored through the coastal hillside, connects directly to an inland logistics hub. Warehouses the size of small towns will sit on the other side, crisscrossed by automated guided vehicles and rail spurs linking to the Pan American Highway. Beyond the steel and concrete, this is an engineered ecosystem. Smart sensors monitoring cargo movement in real time, solar canopies powering terminal operations, water recycling systems ensuring environmental compliance. In planning rooms from Beijing to Lima, engineers and economists alike sketch growth curves that presume the port will handle 2 million TEUs annually by 2030, more than double Peru's current throughput. Today, a container shipped from Shenzhen to Lima spends days in the Suez-Panama Railroad relay. With Chankay online, that voyage will trim to just 23 days sea to gate and crucially cut freight costs by up to 30%. For Peruvian avocado farmers, that margin can mean the difference between profit and loss. For Bolivian lithium miners, it's about capturing premium prices in Asia's battery markets. Brazil and Chile too eye Chankay as an alternative to congested Atlantic routes. From Beijing's standpoint, the port becomes a direct artery to South America's resources: lithium, copper, quinoa, and soy. No intercontinental detours, no tariff-driven bottlenecks. It's the materialization of a century-long dream, a maritime Silk Road that doesn't end in the Mediterranean, but arcs to Valparaiso and beyond. And for Washington, this is less about cargo and more about influence. Every container that sails into Chankay is a test of US ability to compete, not just with speeches and embassies, but with cranes on the coast. Pull back the curtain, you'll find COSCO, China's state-owned shipping titan, at the helm. In 2019, COSCO took a 60% equity stake for $1.3 billion, leveraging its global expertise to ensure Phase 1 stayed on track. The remaining 40%? Peruvian investment from the National Development Bank and private partners. But though the capital may be split, strategic controls lie firmly within Beijing. This is BRI 2.0 in action, a more subtle, sophistication-driven approach than the headline-grabbing megaloans of a decade ago. Rather than saddling partner nations with unserviceable debt, China is co-investing, sharing revenue, and embedding technology transfer agreements, ensuring that local workers learn port management software, security protocols, and environmental safeguards. Meanwhile, the global shipping alliances that rule over 80% of container capacity now see Chancay as a linchpin in their westward expansion. December 2024 saw Xi Jinping and Peru's President Dina Boluarte side by side as the first container vessel docked, its arrival broadcast live across Latin American news channels. Photographers captured the handshake, analysts captured the subtext. A $1.6 billion Phase 1 milestone ribbon cutting. Yes, but also a geopolitical signal. China's reach now extends from Xinjiang to Lima. U.S. defense circles have taken notice. The Pentagon's unclassified reports warn that the deepwater port's dual-use potential could allow military cargoes or refueling operations should diplomatic winds shift. In response, the U.S. has accelerated talks on regional port upgrades in Argentina and Colombia and quietly offered mobility grants under its own infrastructure initiatives. Yet momentum isn't hard to reverse once a wharf is in place and local economies have reoriented. Chancay isn't simply a commercial triumph. It's a testament to how infrastructure can reshape power balances and a preview of what the next wave of global trade corridors might look like. On paper, Chancay looks like a lifeline for Peru's brutal economy. Analysts project a $4.5 billion annual influx, enough to tip GDP growth rates over the 4% mark, and the creation of 8,000 direct jobs on site, from crane operators to logistics planners. Exporters anticipate a leaner supply chain. Preliminary modeling suggests a 15% cut in shipping times and costs, potentially unlocking new markets for Peruvian minerals, agricultural commodities, and manufactured goods. In a country battered by volatile inflation, political turnover, and chronic budget deficits, the port shimmers as hope incarnate. But the fine print tells a more complex story. Of the 8,000 jobs, nearly half are slated for specialized Chinese technicians and engineers, workers brought in under China's Belt and Road Labor Agreements. Local contractors whisper that Chinese suppliers have undercut bids on everything from concrete piles to container cranes. Small Peruvian businesses, once confident they could supply steel, asphalt, or even cafeteria services, claim they've been marginalized. In Lima's Congress, fiery opposition voices demand to know whether Peru is selling off sovereign control of its own coast in exchange for foreign yuan. "We are trading our independence for Chinese currency," thundered a nationalist deputy in a televised debate. As cornfields give way to cranes, questions multiply. Who truly reaps the economic bounty, and at what cost to national pride? Beyond noisy boardrooms and partisan slams lies an ecological tapestry at risk. The Santa Rosa wetlands, 5,000 hectares of marsh, reed beds, and riparian forest, harbor over 70 species of birds, including the Andean flamingo, black-faced ibis, and near-threatened elegant tern. For millennia, the wetlands filtered runoff, nourished fish nurseries, and buffered coastal communities from storm surges. Now, dredging barges carve channels, their hulls stirring up sediment that clouds the water and smothers submerged vegetation. Costco's 1,200-page environmental impact assessment asserts that noise barriers, turbidity curtains, and mangrove replanting will preserve biodiversity. They've earmarked $50 million for community centers, water treatment upgrades, and vocational training, gestures intended to mollify villagers and ranchers. Yet, 27 lawsuits from indigenous Quechua collectives asserting ancestral land rights to international NGOs demanding stricter emission standards still hover over the project like ticking time bombs. Legal experts warn that a single successful injunction could halt dredging for months, delaying the port's grand opening and exposing the government's environmental promises as hollow. Here's an expanded, more immersive version that dives deeper into both the technological marvel and its human and geopolitical dimensions. Perhaps the most audacious element of Chancay's blueprint is the 1.8-kilometer mountain tunnel, a subterranean artery burrowing through coastal foothills to link the deepwater quay with an inland logistics hub. Engineers deployed variable density tunnel boring machines that adapt cutting head pressure on the fly, while precision microblasting techniques, calibrated down to mere grams of explosive per blast, ensure the surrounding limestone and shale strata remain stable. Inside, a network of fiber optic sensors traces every micro crack in the rock, continuously feeding temperature, humidity, and rock stress data to a command center powered by AI driven predictive analytics. When those algorithms flag a potential weak point, automated injection systems can pump in quick setting grout to reinforce the lining, sometimes before anyone even notices there's a problem. Yet, for all its technological bravado, the tunnel's promise of seamless freight movement masks a painfully human cost. Dozens of small farming communities, some tracing their lineage to pre-Inca settlers who carved these slopes into terraced olive and avocado groves, have watched centuries of heritage swept aside by eminent domain. Chancay's ripple effects extend well beyond Peru's Pacific shoreline. Ports in Chile, Ecuador, and Colombia have accelerated their modernization plans. Cranes are being retrofitted to handle ultra-large container vessels, storage yards are installing automated yard management systems, and rail corridors are being upgraded to accept double-stack container cars. Even the Panama Canal Authority is quietly revisiting its pricing model, cognizant that surging southbound volume toward Chancay could erode their northbound toll revenues. Forward-thinking analysts envision a future in which electronics assembled in Shenzhen, garments woven in Hangzhou, and auto parts stamped in Qingdao converge at Chancay. Their efficient quay cranes offload 18,000 TEU ships in under 24 hours, containers zip through the tunnel on double-stacked trains, and freight trucks equipped with GPS-linked platooning technology head east, embarking on an Amazon-style network through Brazil's interior or winding down the Andes toward Argentina's industrial belt. If Chancay achieves even half its 3 million TEU annual throughput projection, it won't merely be another Pacific port, it will rewrite the playbook of global logistics. North American hubs like Los Angeles and Long Beach could see millions slip away from their docks, leaving idle cranes and underutilized berths. European transshipment centers, once the linchpin between Asia and the Americas, may need to rethink their business models entirely, perhaps pivoting to value-added services or seek new hinterland markets. This emerging paradigm poses questions for policymakers and business leaders alike. Will overland corridors across South America become the new arteries of trade? Can rail operators scale up capacity fast enough to avoid bottlenecks at inland terminals? And how will environmental concerns, deforestation along new highway routes, water table disruptions from tunnel construction, be balanced against the economic opportunities of a truly integrated Asia-South America corridor? The headline numbers, $3.6 billion in construction costs, tens of thousands of containers moved annually, pulse across spreadsheets and press releases. But the true accounting ledgers of Chancay register intangible capitals: geopolitical influence, environmental equilibrium, and national cohesion. China didn't merely fund and erect a port. It projected power through steel and dredged waterways, staking a claim far deeper than territorial waters. For Peru, the looming question persists. Has this been a bridge to share prosperity or a trapdoor into strategic dependence? As protesters gather on coastal cliffs and parliamentary debates stretch into the night, the cranes continue their rhythmic choreography and tunnel drills hum beneath ancient hills. Containers are stacked, logistics hubs rise, and each new arrival of Chinese freighter signals that the tides of influence have already shifted. In the end, Chancay isn't just about shipping lanes or employment figures. It's about who sets the rules of tomorrow's trade. While politicians spar over sovereignty and activists cry foul over wetlands, the machinery of global power pivots inexorably toward that Peruvian shoreline, forever altering the currents of commerce and control. Would you welcome a project like this in your country? A $3.6 billion investment that might bring jobs, trade, and progress, but with a foreign flag flying overhead? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching this video with us, and catch you in the next one.